Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Don Zavis, co-founder of the Tucson Paranormal Society. I want to welcome you to Inside Tucson Paranormal here. We've got a wonderful show for you today. Got a wonderful guest. And we really appreciate you coming. We know there's a lot of things that are vying for your attention nowadays, and the commitment that you're kind of putting into this is greatly appreciated. So I want to tell you from the bottom of our heart. Also, by the way, this is actually recorded. So if you will be interested, obviously you'll be able to go online to our website. You'll be able to go to our Tucson Paranormal social media posts, and that would be a perfect opportunity for you if you want to share this with anyone else. So let me get right into the conversation, and we've got a one. Gordon, how are you? Good morning.
I'm doing great, Don. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, no, you as well. I got the account. No, so I got to kind of preempt, Gordon. So we have every month, on the third Friday of every month, we do a general meeting. It's generally held at the Kettle Restaurant. And we bring in speakers on the paranormal and have vendors. And it's a really, really fun environment. But really the part that I enjoy the best of all is when I have an opportunity to get actual experiences they've had. And Gordon was kind enough to share one of his experiences. And I got to tell you, the general consensus from the people that heard it were like, you absolutely positively got to get this guy, on the show and get him recorded. So Gordon, why don't you kind of tell people a little bit about you, who you are, kind of what got you into the world, and then maybe lead into the conversation about what your experience was.
Yeah, we could do a whole hour on what just got us into this. But yeah, I met you guys last Friday, and I shared a little bit of my story. So I've done a couple of paranormal / conspiracy shows over the last few years, and I got kind of sucked into doing the shows because I shared my story of my implants. But I mean, you call them implants. So I'll just start back in, I guess, 2004, 2005. I needed a job, and there was great jobs around Tucson for the weapons manufacturers, because I live basically between Fort Huachuca and Davis Mountain Air Force Base, and around Tucson there's all sorts of weapons manufacturers, government contractors, those kind of things. They had a jobs open on the contingency that you could get a secret clearance. So I went to go, see if I could get a good job with one of these government contractors. And so this one was in Sierra Vista. And on the contingency, they would like put you in the warehouse, right? And then you do a test. And then according to those tests, what kind of level clearance they would give you. And I immediately got qualified for another test, and then another test. So it was essentially,
and these were based on just the fact that you had no problems or
right,
foreign governmental intervention or anything like that.
Right, exactly. I was kind of squeaky clean at that time. I had no criminal record. I had a military World War II grandfather who was kind of a war hero, and a clean record, right? So I thought that's what got me in. But as I went through these tests, so you go through this first one, which is kind of a psychological battery, And then the second one is a test or interview with a psychologist and psychiatrist. And after that one, I realized that, they ask you about your drug use and all those kind of things. And if you believe in ghosts or UFOs. And I was like, oh, that's a weird question to ask for a military job. Okay. Um, but then they asked about, um psychic abilities and healing abilities and things like this and healing experiences. And I had told them about this experience with my daughter in healing her hand. And that got quite a bit of attention. And then telling them about my grandfather, who was, um, he had a really interesting career. He was UDT 1, which is pre SEALs. And he had this kind of these stories where he was like the luckiest dude ever and came through these crazy scrapes, right? They were very interested in that one. At any rate, I got cleared, and then you'd have to do a polygraph after that. And so I went in with a group of, I think there's probably like 7 guys at the same time.
Now, let me ask you, did this seem strange to you? Because this would have been, I mean, just for our audiences listening, that would have seemed like be the crazy thing to work in a warehouse. Have you had all these experiences? Did that seem unusual, or just kind of like, hey, I want a job? Yeah, I'll answer your questions.
No, exactly. I just wanted a job, and I'll answer your questions because I had been a warehouse manager before that. So it didn't seem that weird to me. Um, but no, I'm gonna change phones here. Anyway, let's see. So I get the job, and I get. Um, are you still there?
Oh no, right. I'm actually I'm taking notes at the same time. Yes.
Okay, so I get the job, and all of a sudden I'm like boss of these 7 guys. I'm kind of running the warehouse. I'm a supervisor all of a sudden with like, and I came in with the same amount of qualifications as these guys. So it kind of looked weird. And so I worked this job under contract through another labor company. So it was for Northrop Grumman serving drone parts for um, Fort Huachuca. So it was on and off Fort Huachuca base and Northrop Grumman facility in Sierra Vista. In that, during that 2 years that I was working that contract, they started calling me in for more things like working with the gimbal parts for the cameras on the front, which has a laser rangefinder and all that kind of good stuff for hunter drone units. And during that time, they would bring us in. Well, I shouldn't say us, me. Bring me in for this kind of live mission. Um, and one of those missions was something that came out in the news. It was on WikiLeaks later on, about a year and a half later. It was called Collateral Murder, and where a Jordanian journalist was killed in Iraq, and it was in this kind of town square. Anyway, you can find it on. I think you can pretty much find it on WikiLeaks. Still, it's still floating around the internet. Um, but there were a lot of those missions that I had seen that I kind of forgot because they were very traumatic to witness because you witness it live. And I realized that when the WikiLeaks story came out about it, that I had forgotten about it, and it hadn't been that long. And then I realized, oh, I forgot about a lot of things. And I'm like realizing, oh shit, are they making me forget about these things? And so I'm kind of realizing that this is a planned thing, but I still have 7 years on the secret clearance, and I've signed an NDA where I can't talk about any of these things for 7 years. Um, so I kind of have to keep my head down, um, and I go on to another contract job with another military contractor, and do another one for two more years, and then another different company for another 2 more years, doing laser rangefinders. And they taught me SAP um, software at Northrop Grumman, so it came in handy for other jobs. So they put me on those kind of things where I was doing um, money transactions for landing gear and aerospace parts for Honeywell. And then I went on, because I had laser rangefinder experience, went on to work for a company called EOS, which they made laser rangefinders. So all that was kind of my professional career with military contracting. Now, in that time, between 2008, 2014, I had, dealing with the trauma of witnessing like murder, essentially war crimes.
Yeah, it'd be traumatizing. Absolutely. Yeah, it'd be terrible.
Yeah. I had gained a bunch of weight, became depressed. I had previously had neck and back injuries from another job. And so I was on medications they've put me on opiates, and I started having seizures at night. So I've been on anti-seizure medications, um, gained a bunch of weight. Uh, then in 2014, things kind of came to a head. My health came to a head, and I was diagnosed with a pituitary adenoma, which is a tumor that's between your frontal lobe and your pituitary gland, and it messes up your hormones and things. And so during that time, I had I don't know how many, but over 4 years, I'd had a whole bunch of MRIs to watch the tumor to see if it had grown or shrunk or whatever, just to track it. And within the 4 years, it had never grown or shrunk, which is unusual. Um, with uh, normal organic tumors,
You would think that something would, it would get bigger, or get smaller, but it would do something. It wouldn't stay the same. I mean,
right,
I don't know a lot about cancer, but I know that, a tumor doesn't just sit there.
right, exactly. And even if it's a benign tumor, which they kept saying it was, that it wasn't cancerous, that it's just something there that is messing up my pituitary gland. And so they were just going to watch it, but then they were also going to take it out. And in that time, I'd watched and talked to people that had this surgery, and some people had brain damage from having it taken out, and some had pituitary damage that caused acromegaly and those kind of terrible things. So I was like, screw that. I'm not going to have them cut my brain out if it's not doing anything. Right. So, but it was messing with my I was having seizures and things like that. So I tried to end up doing alternative medicines and diet and exercise. Between that time, I had started doing therapy and trying to get clean off of. I was having a very difficult time getting off of the opiates, and the depression came to a head probably about 2016. My marriage was falling apart, and I OD'd.
Oh, no. Oh my
because-
God.
So between that time, doing the therapy between 2014 and 2016, I had done a little bit of regression and kind of gone back to just trying to, work on myself. But doing that, I had found, these were memories that were there, but I just couldn't. I couldn't come to grips with if they were real to me or not. Because they were like kind of dream statey kind of things. Um, During that time, like around 2005, 2006, I had this experience where there were three people around my bed, kind of shadow figures. Like, it's a dark room. All you see is dark on dark in that kind of thing. But there were three people around my bed in this memory, right? And I wasn't sure if it was real because you're in that dream state and hypnagogic kind of state. And I was having sleep paralysis. And I'd seen these figures, and in my head, the silhouette looked like a babushka, like a hunched over woman with like something, a hood over her head, that kind of thing.
Like a scarf or something? Like a scarf?
Yeah, but it was all shadow, so it was just the silhouette of that. I mean, that's what I called it in my head because I had no reference for it. Years later, looking back, okay, let me finish that part of the story. Sorry if I jump around a little bit. So in this kind of coming back to this memory, I had tried to break out of that sleep paralysis, and I'm telling them, I'm trying to get anything out really, and all I could get out is, if you're going to get to me, you got to get to the God and through the God inside me. That's all I got out, or maybe even I don't know if I even said those things, but that's what I was trying to say. As I got whatever it was out, the middle one stopped because they were leaving at this time when I was trying to say this. And the middle one stops, kind of cocks his head and looks at me, and as I say this, it scoffs like a. And in that second, I realize this is a dude. Like, that's a human response. This is not a man. This is not something else. This is not a demonic force.
This is a person.
Right. And so that leads me to look into, what Black Ops were doing at the time, and what they were wearing and those kind of things. And one of the things that they would typically do is wear backpacks with a black hoodie. And, if it was in combat situations, and in that, finding that out, I was like, oh, shit, I wonder if these were guys that I was working on base with, that kind of thing. But in that time frame, I had no idea what was happening to me. Around that time, I had found a Vice documentary. I can't remember what it's called, and if I did a little searching, I'd probably look it up. But there is a Vice documentary out there where they talk to implantees and, um, you know, following up on the kind of alien implants idea. And one of the guys in there mentions Northrop Grumman and that he has a magnetic spot in his neck. So I'm kind of freaking out. Oh, this guy worked for Northrop and he's got an implant. I wonder if I've got one. And at the time, I'm working on laptops for a school district, repairs. And I had a bunch of neodymium magnets, and I just stuck one to the back of my neck one time, and it sticks immediately. So I'm thinking,
that's got to be. I mean, that's got to be like terrifyingly shocking. So let me ask you this. And by the way, that was like an incredibly perfect description. Thank you. So, do you believe that because obviously was the warehouse like a front? Was it a just, hey, let's just tell him he's going to work in the warehouse and we're going to do all this other clandestine stuff kind of behind the scenes?
Oh yeah, I regularly call it my cover job now. That was definitely my cover job.
Interesting. And do you believe that the cover job was necessary because they identified some, unique abilities in you that that the investigation, whether it's healing ability, just any of the things that you had previously mentioned, my thought would be is that they would have seen that you have these unique abilities, and let's bring him in under the cover. Let's really utilize him for what he actually has, his specialty.
Right. I don't know. I've had other people, who have heard my story say the same thing. Like, why they chose you, right? Because your psychic abilities. Like, yeah, that's, yep. I kind of, over the years, I mean, it's taken me years to kind of come to that, but I do realize that after kind of going over my grandfather's stories too, the kind of miraculous scrapes that he would get through because he just knew something. He had like an intuition or a second sight about something that got him out of some crazy scrape, which unfortunately got him into a lot of situations because during World War II, they just saw that dude as lucky, so they were going to drag him on all the
Yeah, he was their good luck charm. Exactly. Right. So,
right.
So have you actually had like any diagnostic testing that X-rays or something that says, yes, there's something here. We don't know what it is, but yes, there is something here.
I have had. It doesn't show up on X-rays, but it shows up on the MRIs. So after looking into patents of what Northrop Grumman owns, there is a patent out there for a biotelemetry implant, and it is planted at the base of the frontal lobe, in the neck, and in the sternum, clavicle, or under the arm. After sharing the first part of my story years ago, 2020, on a show called Rogueways, which interestingly, that show has been scrubbed. A lot of her stuff has been scrubbed, but it's been scrubbed off of YouTube and on Spotify, and they just won't let her stuff, those interviews, stay up. I don't know why. Interesting little tidbit, right? Anyway, somebody that heard that contacted me and said, "Hey, I have one in my sternum," and he worked with some of the equipment that I worked with in a completely different facility in California. Now, the after another more and more research, the people that I worked with, some of those people had come from California and Northrop Grumman, from the Bay Area facility. After going through and looking up where they developed those, where the medical facility was for Northrop, where they did those kinds of testing, it's in the Bay Area. It was in the Northrop Grumman facility in San Francisco, which has been shut down since then. But interestingly, it is exactly across the street from Elon Musk's Neuralink facility.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously the plot gets thicker. So what? And I apologize because this is inevitable because we've just got a limited amount of time, and this is such a fascinating story. What do you think that it is, and you think that it's something that's happening? I mean, that they're still utilizing? Is it something that's still ongoing? Are they? Is it a tracking? Is it a influence? Or
yeah, I mean, I've been kind of through that over and over again in my head. I still do it, just because every once in a while I'll check to see if they're still magnetic, and they are, but it seems to kind of come and go. Like sometimes they're stronger, sometimes they're not.
Okay.
And were they trying to control me with it? Were they just tracking me? I think both of those things actually probably were true. Was it because of what I was being exposed to at the time? With those, it was clearly I was being exposed to that trauma for a reason, and so that had to have been part of it, either to study how the trauma would affect my brain, or to have me do something, because that's essentially how a Manchurian candidate is programmed.
Exactly.
Trauma-based mind control is a recipe, and it's out there. You can you can find it.
That's amazing. Have you ever thought about attempting to have it removed, or changed in some way, shape, or form?
I have. I've gotten. I've tried to change it through a lot of. I've changed myself. First of all, I had to get clean. In 2018, I went to rehab, got clean off of the opiates and 22 other medications that they had me on, which should be alarming to anybody. That and the team of doctors, between endocrinologists and neurosurgeons and neurologists and all this stuff, they were just pumping me chock full of drugs. And so I got off all of that, which was pretty tough. The seizure medications and the antidepressants and were actually worse than the opiates, honestly. But because of all that, and I fixed my diet, started exercising, I lost 100 pounds. I got real fit, and the pain from those and the neurological effects had reversed. And I had gone back to the endocrinologist to be able to do the test to make sure that had happened, because I could feel the reversal, but I needed the lab results to make sure, that what I'm thinking is correct.
Exactly.
She was just dumbfounded. Well, how did you do it? And I'm like, well, not listening to you was part of it. And
exactly, yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, Gordon, I have to tell you that it's fascinating. these types of things, I mean, and you hear about them, and I think everybody kind of believes that they're out there, but it's such a privilege to have someone like yourself, that's actually gone through it. So, and any as we close up today's session, any kind of final thoughts? I mean, maybe there's, maybe something you can tell something, hey, if you got this experience, you may want to look into it. Maybe it happened to you as well.
Yeah, if you have a magnetic spot in your neck, one of the things that uh, I had neck problems for years, and they told me that I had broken it and it had healed back up. Right in that spot is where it's magnetic.
Really?
And the other one is in my clavicle. So it if you look, just kind of do Google searches
Yeah.
on those, and there used to be stuff you could find
All
of
right.
doctors that they would teach to do these things,
Mhm.
that were still online. I can't find them
Right.
now, but yeah, if you think they're out there, please talk to me, because
Yeah.
you know talking
Absolutely.
to another person can help you psychologically. And I wish I had
Oh,
someone.
absolutely. Well, Gordon, it's absolutely wonderful. We'll make sure we get, if anybody is interested, they can contact us, and we'll make sure we connect them up with you privately. So, Gordon, thank you so much. It was an absolute privilege. It did not, what they said was going to be on this call certainly did not, was excellent. So, thank you so much. And everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us for Inside Tucson Paranormal every Monday, 10 o'clock. And so we wish you well. Gordon, I wish you well as well. Thank you.
Thanks,
It's an
Don.
absolute privilege.
All right, really
Bye bye.
appreciate it. All right, bye bye.
My pleasure.